What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. For this one, we're once again talking about wildcards. Now, I'm not going to make a wildcard video every single week, but in game weeks where it is being played by a lot of managers, I see a lot of discussion about it. I am going to talk about it, and I know especially after Lukaku and Ronaldo did so well in game week 4, even though the game week hasn't ended yet, people are hitting the wildcard button. So we're going to talk through some of the reasons that that's happening, the key players that I would definitely have, how to fit Ronaldo and Lukaku in, and then what my preferred kind of wildcard draft-ish would be with a little bit of tinkering at the end. So if you do enjoy that, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. So I'm going to talk about key players and drafts and stuff like that in just a second, but from what I can see, most of the reasons why people are wildcarding is because they want to get on Ronaldo or Lukaku straight away. So there's some people that are almost regretting that they didn't use it in game week 4 and are now kind of trying to play catch up quickly. Some people want both Ronaldo and Lukaku. I'm definitely going to talk about that quite a lot in this video. There's a Leeds fixture swing as well, so they've got the Liverpool game out of the way. Yes, they lost 3-0, but the fixtures coming up are really good. Removing West Ham players, so Benrahma people aren't keen on now necessarily. Antonio is obviously suspended as well. Wolves fixtures are still really good, and the defence looked really good again at the weekend. And obviously you got a plan for the Chelsea fixture swing as well. So I actually put out a tweet. If you're not following me on Twitter, by the way, go and follow me. I'm even verified now, which is great. I actually put out a tweet asking why people are wildcarding. So we'll go through some of the replies. Not going to go through the whole thread because there's like over 100 replies, I think, already. So I was thinking about using it last week. My defence had really good game week 4 fixtures. Thought Lukaku and Fernandes would outscore Ronaldo. Obviously didn't happen. One thing we're going to answer for this is the fact that you're kind of... It's almost like a bit chasing points. Like Ronaldo did have Newcastle, Lukaku did have Villa. They were good fixtures. Both these players have tougher fixtures this week. So I don't think you need to necessarily rush out and wildcard, to be honest. Antonio out, Tanganga out, Son injured, Bamford and Benrahma not delivering, although I would definitely have Bamford on wildcard, to be honest. Ronaldo / Lukaku, fear of missing out. I'm still not sure about my wildcard selections. I keep making changes. But keep watching this video, will help you. I was always going to wildcard for game week 4, but wanted to wait and see how the games went. Team scored 50 points. The thing is, just because your team only scored 50 points last week doesn't mean it's going to score 50 points again this week. I've got to watch out what gifts come up on here as well. Didn't own Salah to begin with. Fair enough. You need Salah. Want Lukaku, considered a -4, but also want to fix a few other problem areas. Yeah, I've spoken about this before. Like, if you are fixing some key issues, but also fixing a load of other smaller issues, that can be a nice time to wildcard. It doesn't always have to be from a position of like, my team's awful. If your team's doing really well, but there's still a lot of changes you want to make, that's perfectly fine time to wildcard. It's almost like an aggressive play just to keep going. Haven't yet, but I'm considering it a lot. But to get either of Ronaldo or Lukaku in, I have to transfer Bruno out. With his high ownership, I'm not ready for that yet. I mean, I think this week showed that those two can outscore Bruno Fernandes. Kane looks like a waste of money. Antonio, red card. Yeah, absolutely fine. I think moving Kane on this week looks fine. Less than 35 points in the last 2 game weeks. Yeah, that sounds like a team that might need a wild card. Core of the team is okay, but the fringe players were poor choice at the end of the start of the season. Don't give me much flexibility. So there's lots of reasons why people are doing it. The main one seemed to be a bit of fear of missing out. Just really quickly on Ronaldo and Lukaku. Like I said, they had Villa and Newcastle, really good fixtures to target for attackers, especially the Newcastle game. Ronaldo now plays West Ham away. He's not the best captain this week. Last week, you can make an argument that he was, if he was going to play, which we got news of just before the deadline. For anyone that watched my deadline stream, you would have seen that. But for Lukaku, you're not going to captain him Spurs away. You're not going to captain him Man City at home. Ronaldo, you could captain against Villa in game week 6, but you're not going to captain him, I don't think. Most people aren't going to captain him as heavily in game week 5. So the idea that you need to now rush out and get these players, I'm not so sure about. Obviously, their ownership is going up and up. There is a chance for price rises. Might be a good time to get on. But if you can just do it in a few moves instead, I don't think there's a necessity to wildcard. But if you're hitting the button, let's talk about the key players you should go for, and then we'll look at some drafts as well. Okay, so if I was wildcarding, I would almost certainly have Cristiano Ronaldo. But let's talk about the Cristiano Ronaldo versus Romelu Lukaku debate, or whether you should have both. Because I think it is a massive key decision, not just for wildcarders necessarily, but for people in general. Now, I am still, like, my opinion doesn't change massively week to week. I think if we're, like, massively changing what we think based on 1 game week or 2 game weeks, and I think that's doing it wrong almost. Like, there's nothing wrong with picking up new information, but Lukaku being good and being able to score against Aston Villa is not really new information, right? So that shouldn't change our thinking. It's Spurs away, it's Man City at home. I know that Chelsea can beat Man City, I get it, but how many goals are they really going to score? And I also know the Spurs haven't looked great, and Romero's obviously had problems with getting back training and playing with Spurs, and they might not be back that far or that long before the Chelsea game, and so Spurs defence might not be great. And so if I had Lukaku, I probably wouldn't be that worried, but would I be looking at bringing him in? So I think, and we're going to look at drafts later on, that having Ronaldo and Lukaku is just too much, because you want Salah, you have to have Salah. For me, that is non-negotiable, and trying to fit all three in whilst having Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's averaging 8.5 points per game, has got really good fixtures coming up as well. I just think you can fit them in. It is possible. I'm going to show you how you can do that, but I don't think it's optimal. I don't think it's the right way to play. I don't think that players, when they're like 11 and a half, 12 million, the value comes from captaincy. And if you've got Salah, Ronaldo, Lukaku, you can only captain one of them every single week. So if I was wildcarding, and the longer you wait to wildcard, the less Ronaldo becomes an issue, I guess, I would go for Ronaldo and not for Lukaku, because I think West Ham away and Spurs away are quite similar, but Aston Villa at home is much, much better than Man City, right? So Ronaldo's got the better game in Game Week 6. And I've said this before, if you get to Game Week 7 and you haven't got a spare transfer to do Ronaldo to Lukaku, it doesn't matter that much. Ronaldo's got Everton, Lukaku's got Southampton. There's not a huge amount of difference. Now, for both these players, we don't know who's on penalties, but I'm going to guess that Ronaldo definitely is on penalties and Lukaku might be. We're not quite sure until Chelsea get a penalty, or until someone asked Tuchel in a press conference, because obviously Jorginho has been the penalty taker and has been pretty good, but recently he has missed quite a few. So Lukaku might get penalties as well, which would bring him up. So there's no doubt in my mind that from like Game Week 7, 8 onwards, there are lots of game weeks where Lukaku is a better captain than Ronaldo. Like if you look at those fixtures, Leicester away, Liverpool at home, Spurs away, I won't be captaining Ronaldo in any of those, and I'm fully prepared to sell him to Lukaku later on. You just have to accept that these big hitters are going to get hauls. They are going to score goals in other games. It doesn't mean that better value players like Bamford, Calvert-Lewin and players like that can also do a job for a lot less money, which also lets you bolster your defence and your midfield and stuff like that. So that is why I wouldn't go Ronaldo and Lukaku right now. I'm just not going to captain Lukaku at all. He's 11.5 million. How many goals am I realistically expecting from Spurs and Man City? But I definitely would have a plan to get him in later. Now, if you wanted to go for him right now because you're going to captain Salah for the next 2 game weeks, he's got Crystal Palace and Brentford, and not to have Ronaldo and to spread that money around into your team straight away, the extra 1 million from going for Lukaku over Ronaldo, I don't think that's a problem at all, right? If you're not going to captain them, then it's obviously less of an issue. But I do think there will be an argument come Game Week 6 that Ronaldo is slightly better than Salah for captain, like he was this week. And then you got that Everton fixture anyway, which isn't even that bad when Lukaku's only got Southampton, right? If Lukaku had like Newcastle at home or Norwich at home, I think that would be a little bit different. But Southampton, you know, they're a good team to target, but I don't think they're quite at kind of Newcastle and Norwich defence levels. And so, yes, most people would probably rather have Lukaku that week, but having Ronaldo against Everton at home is not an issue. So my opinion is Ronaldo or Lukaku. I would go for Ronaldo. I wouldn't go for both, and we'll look at some drafts soon to kind of see why that is. If I was wildcarding out, 100% I would have a Liverpool triple up. I would have Salah, I would have Jota, and I would have Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, Firmino is back. I think he's back doing running and some light jogging and stuff like that. So to me, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert on this, but the way that people are talking about it, it sounds very unlikely that he'll be back for Crystal Palace. He could be back for Brentford, but we'll have to wait and see on that. For me, those 2 fixtures are so good for Liverpool that I would definitely just take the risk on Jota for the next 2 weeks and then just see what happens. If you've got a wildcard team without too many other kind of minutes concerns, then you can have someone like Jota in your team who is capable of exploding. I know people had him for this week and they were expecting big things against Leeds. It didn't happen. A lot of that was down to kind of Mane's finishing. Then he ended up scoring from a Thiago assist. But Jota is still a good option. Don't let what happened against Leeds affect your thinking. He's a really good option. If I was wildcarding, he'd be in my team. Liverpool are just looking so good at the moment, right? Yes, they've had good fixtures, but that's exactly why we want to target them. They are probably the second best attack in the league, better than Chelsea, better than Man United, and their players are mostly nailed on, which is what makes them better FPL options than those for Man City. Like if we knew that Pep was going to keep that team, which to be fair, he's not changed for 3 games in a row now, if we knew he was going to keep doing that for the season, then we'd jump on Torres and we'd jump on, you know, Grealish and players like that. But these players are key for Liverpool, and they play every single game, and they're super attacking, and they get loads of points. So Trent, Jota, and of course Salah, because he's such a good captain this week. Like, you could captain him for 5, 6, Palace, Brentford, game week 8, Watford, maybe game week 10 against Brighton as well. Like, that's 4 out of like the next 6 game weeks where he's a decent captain. So Salah, Jota, or Trent, non-negotiable for me. I'd have them all in my wildcard team. One question that game week 5 wildcarders are probably asking themselves is which goalkeeper to go for. I think a lot of people struggled in game week 4, whether to spend the extra for Jose Sarr, or whether to stick to Sanchez, or whether there was any other kind of 4.5 million option. And one of the problems with wildcarding so early, and I'm not saying it should stop you from doing it, but it's hard to kind of think that there's a better goalkeeper option out there unless one has really kind of shown up to be decent at saves, decent for clean sheets, like Martinez did last year. A lot of people jumped on between kind of game weeks 3 to 5, and he went on to be an awesome keeper for the whole season. I don't think we've necessarily seen that yet. Like, Sanchez has been good in terms of getting 2 clean sheets, but he doesn't have to make a lot of saves. Now, you can look at that 2 ways, right? You could say, well, one, it's good that he's not being in the position to have to make saves. Therefore, Brighton defence is actually quite good, like we expected pre-season, and he's a really good option. But also, cheap goalkeepers, one of the reasons we like them is because they make a lot of saves generally, and then when they do get a clean sheet, it's a big score. So I don't think Sanchez is really going to get a clean sheet and then get like 8, 9, 10 points for it like we saw with Martinez last year. So you could possibly use that as a reason to get rid of him. But I don't know if there's an obvious replacement right now. Just really quickly, the XG prevented. So that's kind of like, you take about, your goalkeeper faces a lot of shots. What would on average these goals go in? And then do they prevent more than normal or less than normal? So really, we haven't seen much from these goalkeepers. We're only 4 weeks in, right? But Jose Sarr has prevented plus 0.4 XG. It's a really small amount. We're very early into the season. So I don't mind Sarr. He's having to make quite a few saves. So once he starts doing that and getting clean sheets, it's got potential for some pretty nice returns, but you also have to pay 5 million. So right now, I haven't really changed my opinion. I still think you should spend 4.5. That extra 0.5, especially early on in the season, can do a lot for your team. And I'd probably stick with Sanchez. Ramsdale was really interesting because I don't think we should see Arsenal as this really poor team that are going to concede every week. They've got players back now. I think they're going to do okay. To me, it would seem unlikely that you'd put Ramsdale in and then take him straight back out for Leno. So potentially Ramsdale now is a really good option for 4.5. Could you get an Arsenal defender who hopefully is nailed on? It's just, do you want to take that risk? And if you're unsure and then you're saying to yourself, well, I'll get another 4.5 million keeper instead, then you could just step up to the 5 million level. So I'm just not sure I would go for Ramsdale right now. Just quickly on Meslier for Leeds. He makes a lot of saves, which is nice, but he's 5 million. Leeds have just lost Llorente. He's out injured again. He always gets injured. I don't know how long he's out for, but I'm sure he'll miss a couple of weeks at least. Strauch is obviously suspended as well. So obviously, when you're getting a goalkeeper, you're thinking about it for the long term because you don't want to spend transfers in FPL on goalkeepers. But Meslier is just too much of a risk for me at 5 million. As much as he makes saves, and when he does get a clean sheet, it'll be a huge score. I'm just not sure where that is where I would go. So right now, I like the idea of going to Ramsdale. I just don't know if I'm massively confident that he now keeps his place for the rest of the season. So I think I'd probably stick with Sanchez if I'm completely honest. Before we get on to the draft that I would probably go for, or something very similar to that anyway, we're going to talk about those of you that want Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold all in your team, right? I think probably the best way to do it is not to use a 3-4-3, although I have come up with one of those as well. So the first one is a 4-3-3. So you'd play Bamford, Lukaku, and Ronaldo every single week. Yes, I like Calvert-Lewin, but Bamford's a bit cheaper, maybe easier to fit in. And by the way, those of you that got on like Livramento early and Duffy early and players like that, you might have a little bit more money to spend, right? But I would probably have Bamford up front alongside obviously Lukaku and Ronaldo because they've got to be in every single draft. And then it's Rafinha, Salah and Gallagher. So straight away, I'm thinking there's potentially quite a few other players to go for in midfield. The only thing right now is, if you think that no one's really talking about Grealish. Okay, there's Greenwood, there's Torres maybe. There's not a massive amount of midfielders that are standing out right now. Right, so if anything, like it would almost be ideal for Ronaldo and Lukaku not to have come to the league, so we could all have Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, Jimenez, and Bamford, and then have a midfield of like De Bruyne, Fernandes, Salah. But that's not the case, right? So there's not actually a huge amount of standout midfielders right now, I would say. So you could argue that going for Gallagher and Rafinha is not that bad. I still think Rafinha is going to be great value coming into these Leeds fixtures. But then the problem is, because you've got Trent as well, you've got to play Trent, and James every single week. Then you've got to play 2 of Duffy, Marçal, Livramento. So it might not be that bad, but I don't know if it's that ideal either. Obviously, when you start changing things around, so let's say you get rid of Trent Alexander-Arnold, maybe you go for, I don't know, someone like Cancelo for Man City. Again, not thinking about the fixtures right now, although Southampton is a good fixture. Chelsea and Liverpool, not so much. But they've got good long-term fixtures, and we know that they can shut out big teams as well. So you could take him down. You've got 1.6 million to spend. Then maybe you start upgrading players. So instead of Livramento, you go for someone like Rudiger as well. So you double up on Chelsea defence. And then you've got Marçal, who you can play most weeks. So that's possibly a little bit of a better way to play the 3-4-3. Although ideally, you'd probably take Cancelo down a little bit in money as well. Possibly to someone like, I don't know, you could cover the Arsenal defence maybe with Tierney. Not that you necessarily need to cover the Arsenal defence. And that gives you a bit of money to upgrade Gallagher to like a 6.9. So you could get Harvey Barnes, for example. But again, you've had to lose Trent Alexander-Arnold to do that. So straight away, kind of Lukaku and Ronaldo are hamstringing your team a little bit, unless you think going without Trent is a good idea, in which case obviously that is completely up to you. The other option is the 3-5-2. So if I just switch to the 3-5-2 here, so you'd have Trent and Shaw. Again, Luke Shaw could be Rudiger, could be Reece James, however you want to play it. Like I'll put Reece James in here, for example, and hopefully get a lot of attacking returns and hopefully play a lot of minutes this season. I think it'd be great value. So you'd play Trent and James every week. Then you've got to play 1 of Williams, Livramento and Duffy. Again, if you've got more money, you could upgrade Williams to like a Marçal at Wolves just to give you a bit of extra kind of protection there. Then you've got Ronaldo and Lukaku up front again, obviously, and then Archer on the bench. Any 4.5 million on the bench, none of them are really going to get you any minutes anyway. They're all just a dead spot. And then you've got Salah and Rafinha again, but then you've got Traore, Saka, Benrahma. Again, you can mix this around. Sarr could be in there instead. The point is, if you ever need to upgrade, straight away, you've got a lot of money spread out over those midfielders. There's no easy way to get money out of them to go upgrade. You could go down to like Gray or Gallagher, but it's not that exciting. Or straight away, you've just got to get rid of one of Lukaku, Salah, Ronaldo, Trent. So you're still in that same predicament every single time. You could downgrade Trent. Maybe that's the easiest way. But I would just, if you just look at these fixtures, like Palace, Brentford, Watford, they could be 3 clean sheets. It could be 3 clean sheets in the next 4 for Liverpool. And we know how good he is at attacking as well. So the 3-5-2 looks okay on paper because those midfielders, Benrahma, Saka, Rafinha, Traore, could be really good value, but I'm not sure how much I trust them. And you've literally got no forwards from the Bamford, Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, Jimenez kind of lineup. Wilson when he's fit as well. There's so many good value forwards that I really don't like this 3-5-2 at all, really. The other one is sticking to a 3-4-3. This is arguably not actually that bad, right? If you want Lukaku, Ronaldo, Salah and Trent, I actually don't mind this too much right now. Again, the problem with wildcard early is things can change so quickly that you almost don't want to be stuck with such a weak defence. But right now it could work. You've got Salah, Rafinha, Benrahma. Again, Benrahma could be Traore or Sarr if you want someone a little bit different. And the only real weakness in that midfield is Gallagher, who has looked really good. But I think 4 games in to say that he's now going to be this great player for the rest of the season is probably a bit too early. I'm looking at him myself at some point possibly. But with Crystal Palace's fixtures, like if I just bring them up, Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Leicester at home, Arsenal away, Man City away as well, and kind of the next 6 is not ideal. He's played really well, but I don't know if I'd want to massively rely on him. But if it lets you get Trent, Salah, Ronaldo, Lukaku, and you're happy with that, then I don't think it's a bad compromise, right? So this isn't too bad. You play Trent and Marçal most weeks. Like Wolves fixtures are good all the way up until like game week 14. And then you've only got to play 1 of Duffy, Livramento or Williams. So it's not ideal to have to play them, but it's not that bad either. If Duffy keeps his place, and he has been playing fine for Brighton, they've been keeping a couple of clean sheets, he's great value because his goal threat in the box is so huge. So I actually don't mind having to play 1 of these every single week. And the only other real compromise is Gallagher. So I do think it's possible to do a decent-ish 3-4-3. But then the question comes is what do you do when you want like Chelsea defenders and Man City defenders? Again, you've probably got to downgrade one of Lukaku or Ronaldo. Now, you could just go for both of them for now and downgrade later. That's not that bad. But it's a lot of cash to then distribute. I was going to say redistribute. But if you downgraded Ronaldo to like a Calvert-Lewin, that's like 4 million to spend straight away. You've got to make a couple of other moves to get that into the right places. And while you're doing that, other stuff might crop up. So I don't hate it, but that is what would leave me worried really is the flexibility. Let's talk about what I would do. So what if I was wildcarding, right? So I'm not wildcarding, just to put it out there. I don't think my team really needs it. I'm quite happy with it. But if I was, I would go for a wildcard, something like this. Not exactly precisely this, but something like it. And straight away, I've taken out Lukaku. Now, what I feel like that does is spreads a lot more value around the team. So we've got Calvert-Lewin in, who I think over the next couple of weeks potentially could outscore Lukaku anyway. I'm just talking about the next 2 weeks, right? Could outscore him. He's got penalties as well. We know that. He should be fine as well. I know he's flagged, but I'm expecting him to play against Burnley tonight and be absolutely fine. Obviously, if he gets injured, then different story. But you could just go for someone like Jimenez, Wilson when he's back fit, Antonio, for example, as well. You could even put Antonio in this team and just play one of your defenders this week instead and have Antonio from game week 6. There's loads of options for that. Then it's let me upgrade one of the defenders, so we're not stuck with a bunch of 4.5 or below defenders. We've got Rudiger alongside Trent. We've also got Jota in, so we're not stuck with the kind of £6 million players. Once Jota becomes a bench issue or a rotation issue, then we can move him on, but we make it a lot of use to the next 2 fixtures. And obviously you've got Sarr in there, that could be Traore, etc. You could downgrade Ronaldo straight to Lukaku, save that 0.9 million and put it into defence. I wouldn't have a massive issue with that if you're going to captain Salah the next 2 weeks anyway. But I just think that game week 6 fixture against Villa is pretty damn good for Ronaldo. So that's probably where I would go. You've also got you basically get to make use of the Leeds fixtures as well, if I can get my words out. So Newcastle, West Ham, Watford, Southampton, Wolves, Norwich. Like, this is a really good run. Like, from game week 5 to 10, you can just rely on lead those players in. Bamford's got penalties. Rafinha's great value. You don't have to worry about them. I've already seen like people like waiting for Bamford to score. He literally scored against Burnley. Like, in fact, the only 2 teams he blanked against are Liverpool and Man United. He's got points against Everton and Burnley. Okay, it was only 1 goal, 1 assist, but he's already taken over. Hasn't even had any penalties yet either. So I really like Bamford. And I think you put Rudiger in probably to basically make use of the fixture swing that's coming. So you could stick with Shaw, but I think in a few weeks you're going to want to make a move. And if you're already planning on doing Ronaldo to Lukaku anyway, then you don't want to kind of book in too many transfers later on. And I think it makes use of Sarr's pretty decent fixtures. Again, you could go for Traore instead, who's got a fixture run that's so good up until like game week 14. But I think this is just the value you play. You can only captain 1 player every week. And if you go through the list of fixtures, which I would definitely do to plan your captains, because that should dictate what your transfers are, I think Lukaku is just not an issue for a few weeks. So he's not the best captain this week against Spurs. I would even say Ronaldo is not the best captain against West Ham. It's Salah. Then you look at game week 6. Again, Salah's playing Brentford. Man United are playing Villa. There's your 2 captains, right? Game week 7. Now, this gets a bit tricky because Liverpool are playing Man City. But you could go for Harry Kane against Villa. You could go for Lukaku against Southampton. You could go for Ronaldo against Everton. So if you're stuck with Ronaldo, one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, against Everton, it's not that bad. You could still captain him. From game week 8, I definitely prefer Lukaku. So Lukaku against Brentford is probably the one, or Salah against Watford. They're both good. In fact, I'd probably go for Salah that week. So I'm already saying I might not even captain Lukaku until like game week 9 or 10 or something like that. Lukaku has Norwich this week, so that's the time to captain him because Salah's playing Man United. And then you can see how the fixture swing works. Then Liverpool against Brighton, game week 11, Chelsea against Burnley. So suddenly we're shifting away from Ronaldo and Salah being the best captains to then Lukaku and Salah being the best captains. And therefore, game week 7 or 8 is the only time, in my opinion, you need to worry about having Lukaku. You don't need to worry about it this week, which is why I haven't got him in my team and I've spread a bit more value around. It's all well and good teams this week with Lukaku, Salah, Ronaldo. I've said those names so much in this video. It's all well and good that they all did really well, especially the 2 strikers getting 2 goals each. But when that doesn't happen, and they're obviously not going to score 2 goals every single week, then you're relying on the rest of your team to kind of pick up the points to get you that green arrow that week. And if you've not got not enough value players, you've kind of taken too much money out of those players, then I just think that's when you'll start seeing those red arrows and those poor weeks. Like, I know like Duffy did really well this week, Livramento, but are they players you want to rely on? Probably not, right? At some point you're going to want the Chelsea defenders, the Man City defenders. You're going to want to keep Trent as well. which is why I wouldn't go for Lukaku. But maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe I've got it wrong. Let me know what you think about the whole Ronaldo versus Lukaku or both debate in the comments below. What you think of this wildcard and how yours is shaping up. So if you enjoyed that video, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. Obviously, do let me know below what you think of those wildcard drafts and all that good stuff as normal. If you haven't checked out Patreon, big shout out to everybody that has already and is supporting the channel. If you want to have a look at what's on offer, there is a link in the description below. And a big shout out to Nicola, Simon G, JC, Jermaine CM, and I think it's People Kit C. If I pronounced that wrong, let me know via message. If you want to check it out and join the Patreon crew, links in the description below. I actually might be back later with another video. I've got a lot planned this week. I just think with wildcards and stuff, there's a lot more to talk about. And obviously, we have videos the rest of the week, and it's a Friday deadline as well. So plenty of content to come. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you're new around here, and I will catch you again soon.